This episode of Deep in the Weeds is proudly supported by Olsen Salt, Australia's oldest family-owned salt company.
We just want people to have fun, like that at the end of the day, you know, like that's all that matters. It's being hospitable. It's why we do what we do. It's to see the smile on people's faces. It's, you know, that's more important than them giving me a reading of that pasta dish was 9 out of 10. I don't care about that. I care about if you left feeling great, if you had a good time.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Some of Australia's best chefs were not trained classically. Some have never even attended TAFE to complete an apprenticeship. Rather, they found homes under the wings of industry legends, mentors, and success stories to learn their trade. While the traditional apprentice programs work for many, training and evolution continues well beyond that time in the industry. Nic Wong is the executive chef of Cicciabella. Nic, how you going?
Hey, Huck, how you doing?
Good, mate. It's good to catch up. It's been a while. You're a bit of a journeyman in the industry and been involved in so many amazing venues. But I want to start with the sort of early on in your career because there were some really pivotal moments that changed a career and the perception of it in the industry for you. Can you take us back to that time?
Yeah, 100%, Huck. Look, I kind of fell into cooking purely for the reason of having to get a job. You know, I got booted out of school, just wasn't for me. And then just kind of rolled into the hospitality life. And to be completely fair, you know, I wasn't in it for the long run. Definitely in it just for enjoying hospitality, enjoying partying, you know, like to be fair, you know, I was 18, just going out all the time and yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. But then, I stuck to my guns at TAFE, and lucky enough, I got into this program, which was called, Proud to be a Chef, and, became the New South Wales finalist and got to meet some incredible people that I still talk to this day, like Christine Mansfield and Stefano Manfredi. And as a young cook that didn't really have any direction, doing something like that just like changed the course.
Well, you mentioned TAFE and the great backbone that it gives all chefs to go on with their career. But that moment with those sort of mentors, how did that change your perception on obtaining a career and succeeding in the industry?
Yeah, I think, you know, really, the realization of cooking being an actual career, I guess, you know, living under a traditional Chinese family, I was kind of guided into like there's only, you know, two ways about it. You know, you need to go to university, you need to do this, you need to do that, which, you know, I don't blame my parents for in any way. It's just the fact that that's kind of how they were raised, I guess. And, you know, I guess a lot of people, you know, probably even myself didn't really think of it as that much of a serious, fulfilling job where you could make money and still enjoy what you're doing.
Those formative years, you worked with Kylie Kwong and Neil Perry, and also at a wonderful little spot called Vinny, which is no longer there. Tell us about that period of time and the influence of those chefs and restaurants on you.
Yeah, so I was, you know, after doing the program, really just flicked a switch in my head, and so I decided to try and get a job at Billy Kwong for working under Kylie. And, you know, they didn't really have a role, and I just, you know, just knocked on the door and handed my resume in and kind of just hoped for the best. And I was super lucky because, you know, at the time it was it was still my most cherished environment. It was still, and I feel that I learned a lot in that time. And bringing back the theme of what you were talking about, the mentors. Like, I worked for Hamish Ingham was my head chef. Tom McCary was sous chef. Matt Lindsay was in there. James Parry was in there. It was a power team, and as a young kid from out west, rocking up and seeing these guns of the industry and what they could show me. And yeah, I still talk to all of them to this day.
Well, and you've linked up with them throughout your career further on as well, with helping Matt Lindsay with Esther when that sort of got off the ground. And you also were joint head chef of Bodega with Joel Humphreys. What was it like in that role with a restaurant that was so influential in changing the perceptions of casual dining in Australia?
Yeah, so Joel and I, still best buddies. We met at Rockpool. And again, that forms, there's another, I guess those institutions, they forged, they have the infrastructure, to help guide young cooks, along their journey, whether or not, someone like Neil, like always will always look up to Neil in the sense of the way he can build the infrastructure for kitchens is just, his kitchens are like TAFE kitchens, where you can really learn every single element that you want to learn. Like, you can go as far as you want to go working for someone like that. But then back to, being like going to Bodega with Joel. Look, Bodega was one of another institution restaurant where it really kind of, I remember the first time I dined there, I was like, man, this place is so fucking cool, like it just has the vibe. It just has, and that's where I really learned a lot more about, I probably eased off on trying to cook. I guess I tried to, what I'm trying to say is I tried to not just cook for myself. I tried to cook for the room and the space. And I really learned more about the holistic approach to hospitality, which I really believe in now a lot more, like, as opposed to tunnel vision cooking for a chef where all that matters is what's on the plate.
Tell us a bit about this holistic vision of hospitality that you're talking about.
Well, I think it falls back in line with why I enjoy what I do. I don't think I necessarily enjoy what I do for coming up with a new flavor profile or learning this really rad technique and nailing it with some special ingredient. I think it's more, I learned earlier on that I think it doesn't just take this red hot chef to make an amazing venue. I think it takes a lot more. Like, it really does, and having an appreciation for front of house, somms, bartenders, glassies, whatever, just realizing what everyone has to bring to the table to make the table turn.
You've been involved in the opening of the Apollo, Esther, Chocho San, and you're the head chef there as well. Some amazingly influential restaurants. Tell us about that period of time and the momentum that you were part of with all of those sort of venues.
Yeah, opening. I guess that's another kind of like, just look. I mean, like a lot of people in the industry, I feel like I'm an adrenaline junkie, and you get the adrenaline from service every night. That's why you keep coming back. But then I started another form of addiction. I would say in opening. In opening a venue, and I talked to a lot of other of my friends chef friends about this, and they're like, man, they hate it because it's not perfect. There's a bit of a chaos to it. But I love how far it stretches me. I love how far it can really, I don't know, you see, working with other people, you really can see how they really are. Like, people can shine. Some people can't handle it very well, but then I think I've learned to kind of recognize that early in others and maybe shelter them a little bit, because you can see the potential in them still. But yeah, like opening venues is just another level of addiction, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Well, that sort of development and that the opening up and what you're talking about with training and mentoring young chefs, that's really become a defining feature of you as a chef now. You're very heavily involved in new venues, developing concepts and ideas, and also mentoring and looking after chefs. Tell us a bit about that in regards to your role.
Yeah, because I think, especially during the last year, I guess we, as a community, we've definitely lost some amazing cooks, chefs, all levels. And I guess at the same time, though, we have gained the up and comers. As what I'm trying to say with that is, I think a lot of, we all know that a lot of, young guns, young cooks that really are pushing the envelope, they eventually just shoot off overseas, which is, I'm not dissing it at all. It's just that's the fact. So we tend to lose like our own, we tend to lose our own really red hot juniors. So I think that there's definitely a hole now where we need to mentor these guys and girls who want to jet off overseas and go and, they want to go and work in France, or they want to go in the US. But obviously now they can't, and this is going to happen for a while. So we need to be able to, hopefully, I would like to see them staying and we be getting, we'll get a lot more legs out of them, but we have to be able to give them the ability to grow as well.
With this situation and the opportunity, do you think that there's a sort of a golden era down the path for hospitality with this amazing talent pool, if given the right mentorship in Australia?
I'd like to think so, Huck. It does come back down to, I hope that young Aussie cooks, they can look back and have the same kind of mentors that I had, and I'm not that old, Huck. It's only like all my mentors are still around. So yeah, I just think that I'd like to think that they've been given that opportunity. I guess we've still got a long way to go, with being sustainable. We need to, there was a massive era of, there was a million, and even though I'm a massive culprit to it, because I love the openings of venues, but there was so many new venues in, what was that, about 5 years ago, just like boom, it just blasted off. And and it was the common problem. Like, everyone's understaffed, or underskilled staff, let's say, maybe potentially. But now it's kind of like there's a similar kind of problem. But I think as long as we've just got, like, we may potentially, as leaders, we need to change the way that we really take our team on. And when someone new comes into the kitchen, it's not as simple as, here's an apron, go and get changed out the back, this is what you do. Like, it's about proper induction and really making people feel that they belong, whereas potentially in the past it hasn't been like that.
This episode of Deep in the Weeds is proudly supported by Olsen Salt, makers of Australian sea salt since 1948.
We take the seawater from Great Australian Bight and then we store it in something called a primary pond. Then it's fed through a succession of ponds from anywhere between 8 months and 2 years until it gets so heavy in brine and the water is evaporated off, the salt starts to fall out of the water, and it's as simple as that. That's all that we do, and then we wash it in seawater and package it. Hi, I'm Alex Olsen from Olsen Sea Salt. Salt all over the world can taste differently, and that's because salt has character, in the same way that a wine has character from where it's grown. So salt from the Eyre Peninsula has a very fresh, clean, crisp flavour that some of the best chefs in Australia appreciate. Eyre Peninsula is a really remote location, and because it's remote, it's considered a very pristine area. I mean, the next landfall is the Antarctic, and that pristine water makes it a perfect place to make sea salt.
For more information, go to olsens.com.au. I wanted to have a look at how this approach has sort of dawned on you. I know that there's a period of time in your life after Chocho-san where you kind of left Australia and worked on brand development in Tokyo, but you also had some time out and became a yoga instructor as well. And it's a really interesting period of time in your life. Can you tell us about that sort of period and how it affected what you do now?
Yeah, I think taking a seat back, taking, like the wind out of my sails, out of, I guess, running a team at Chocho and heading over to Tokyo, which is, it's any chef's dream to go and work over there. Like, it's just incredible. And in the capacity that I was working in was quite ironic. An Aussie Chinese chef going to Japan to teach Japanese kids how to cook Greek food. So, there was that element too. But I really took, when I look back on that little element of it, it made me think about how to better my teaching, because that was just on, my Japanese isn't great. So, you have to, just the little things, like I had to think of every single way that, it was problem solving essentially. But then in human form, like having to figure out what, if whatever could go wrong and try and fix it. And then also, working with these guys that we couldn't really communicate properly. It definitely bettered the way that I teach, just approach. And it made me realize how important that was. And then coming back and then straight back into an opening, as I love to do, in Brisbane, I think I really held that approach on. But, I guess because it was more of because over in Japan, it was not an operations role. So I never really had to do any kind of service kind of stuff. It was more really focusing on the brand, focusing on the teams and helping them learn our way, our approach, the Australian approach, I guess. But then, coming back over here, just Brisbane is a beast. That whole development is a beast. And, I guess I also took I had a holiday, and it was the first time it was the first time my father, we went to Burma, and it was the first time my father had been back in 46 years because they fled. And during all it's essentially what's happened in Burma. I'll just brief spiel, not go off the topic. Brief spiel, the coup has happened multiple times throughout its, in the last 50 years. And this is it's happened again. Not saying it's a good, obviously not saying, not sweeping under the rug. It's a terrible thing that's happening. But yeah, it's happened before. So anyway, my parents fled, and so we went back at Christmas time, and that really like changed me a lot too. And I think I just I came back to Sydney and came back to Greca after this little break, because it was obviously a super emotional time to go away with my father then. And I just kind of like, I think I just needed to have that break for myself, because I hadn't stopped really at all ever before.
You mentioned that trip with your father to Burma changed you. Can you tell us how that changed you?
Maybe to be a little like, I think it's just what was important. And I kind of, I was just at the wrong venue, being at Greco and stuff. It was just the beast that it was. I love busy big restaurants. That's not what it's not about. It's just working like that. I guess I was just drained. I think I was just drained. It was a full on time, and I just wanted to be. I just wanted to. Yeah, I actually can't even put it into words. It's just kind of like I just needed the break. I've always thought about it like, oh, did I have a breakdown at that stage? And no, I don't think I did. It's just that I kind of reflected a lot on that trip, and it really resonates with the way that I want to look at moving forward. So I decided to, and I was practicing a lot of yoga at the time. That's why I kind of had the time out, and then decided, oh, I got nothing else to lose. Like, why don't I just jump into it and give it a go? And the training is another level for those people who have done a yoga instructor course or anything similar like that. You really figure you really go deep inside yourself. Like, you really do. Like I enjoy boozing on and stuff like that. But during that period, I didn't drink. Because like, I guess at first face, a lot of people potentially might look at me and not be so, they might not feel super comfortable to approach. And I think I got this a lot, especially in class, because the class that we did was, I would probably never really mix with the people that I did my course with, but you really do connect on another level, but probably more so connect on another level with myself. That's what happened. And it makes you like, as apart from the physical side of it, it does definitely make you, it brings you to tears.
Yeah. Well, it led to some changes in your career, and you were a part of a couple of openings after that, because you can't keep away from them, with Arana and Schwamama. But you ended up joining the Icebergs group in a group development role, really targeting that sort of thing. Tell us about that original sort of when you first joined the group.
Yeah, so when we first joined the group, which was, pretty much late 2019. Yes, that's correct. Because the role, I guess, these executive chef roles got thrown around, and I didn't want to take I didn't want an executive chef role at the start. That's not what I wanted to, like, the way that I wanted to go. I wanted to really help mature and nurture the senior teams now. That's kind of what I said, like what I went in with, talking to Morris about. I said, this is what I would like to do, like, because the group had a capacity like it was a much larger group before. So I was like, all right, I tried to write my own role. I was like, look, this is what I think this is my strength. I love doing openings. Yeah, I can sit in the dugout until you open a venue and then boom, I'm in, no problem. I love doing that. But, I want my key to be, to really mentor these guys, these head chefs, these sous chefs, and give them the tools to mentor their juniors. I didn't want it as easy as, just throw me into a kitchen and I can help build your junior team. I think that's well and good, and I'm happy. I was not against it, but I think what I really wanted was to give the head chefs, coming back to infrastructure, I wanted to build that for the whole group. Like, that's kind of that was my goal, I guess. And then the unfortunate happened, I guess, with lockdown, and things change, and businesses change, and the group dispersed and became a bit smaller, and it's just that's life, and that's okay. But that I'll still always, essentially that's kind of where I'm drifting towards now. I'm trying to do this in the right way, be a leader, but also teach my leaders how to lead too.
Well, you are veering back towards that role for the group, and the group is expanding more, and has opened a couple of more sites with Cicciabella out at Parramatta, and there's also Byron Bay as well, and the city. Tell us about the restaurant and what it's all about.
Yeah, so Cicciabella, the Cicciabella brand, so the original being in Bondi, that actually opened as I pretty much started with the group. It wasn't really an intention at the start to take over, like look after that venue or that brand, because as we just discussed, I kind of want that as my role. Like I want to mentor these head chefs, essentially, or sous chefs. So the brand, it flies under the Morris Tazzini banner. We're not classic, but we're not future, modern gastro kind of style stuff. We're honest cooking. We've always built around some kind of natural element. I guess with the Bondi site, we have a beautiful old wood fire pizza oven. So, I really kind of tried to scale things back and tried to cook a lot of things in the wood fire as much as we can, because that's just it's something that it's something that I love, and I think it's part of the venue. So obviously we want to incorporate that as much as we can, and then the Parramatta site, which is the venue is it's got the same DNA, but it's not the same. I guess it has definitely been a venue that's been designed for a mini CBD precinct, I guess. Parramatta is just crazy now. I grew up in Parramatta, and it's nothing like it was now. It's very different. Demographic is very different. So that's also something that, like any time you venture outside of opening a venue in Eastern Sydney, it's different. So there's always those things to be taken into consideration. But yeah, we still hold the same ethos. It's all about, it's just a casual experience. We just want people to have fun. Like that at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's being hospitable. It's why we do what we do. It's to see the smile on people's faces. It's, that's more important than them giving me a reading of, that passed the dish was 9 out of 10. I don't care about that. I care about if you left feeling great, if you had a good time, and that encompasses what I was saying about, engage, the importance of front and back of house connection and things like that. It's just a holistic approach. It all stems back in that, it's, yeah.
With the multiple venues now, is it allowing you to finally build that sort of platform and infrastructure that you had intended?
Yeah, definitely. Now, I've got two great head chefs, at Bondi branch and the Parramatta branch. So, it really, I can spend my time with them and on them, but then also help the junior guys just, as we need to be. But yeah, it definitely does, Huck. I think and you know what? It's only taken me this conversation to kind of really realize that I've been doing it, but I haven't really been pushing for that. I haven't set that intention in myself. Oh, that's what I need to do. That's how I need to focus. But talking with you about it, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe it is definitely making me, I'm still more like I'm creating my own path essentially. And I think a lot of people are, but don't necessarily know it all the time.
There's been a lot of focus on mentoring young chefs from different people and organizations in the industry, but there's never really talk about mentoring workers that have been in the industry for a long time, like you're talking about. What's the challenges involved in being a mentor for head chefs and senior staff?
I guess the number one challenge is ego, Huck. Number one challenge is ego, for sure. And I was there too. I won't lie. I guess growing up as a young cook in the kind of environment that we're exposed to, ego is huge, and it clashes, and it's a very emotional kind of. It's just very strong emotion, I should say. So look, I think ego is the big one. It's not like I want to kind of tiptoe around situations, because it happens. But if you can learn to develop, if you can learn to harness your own ego, and then I guess it gives you a little bit more strength to be able to project. It just gives you a little bit more to kind of be able to learn to teach better. I think that the clashes that I had, I always never have lost my temper. I think we need to kind of ego and patience are go hand in hand. But yeah, definitely the biggest challenge is people's ego, because sometimes as a head chef of a venue, you often feel that no one can tell me what to do. I'm the boss. But and it's learning to not tell people what to do, but trying to grow that person, and that's not it's not an easy thing. It's you've got to constantly chip away at trying to get across to people, I guess.
You've had a turbulent year, and we just sort of skimmed over the lockdown and sort of the change of roles, but it sounds like it's morphing back into what you had intended in the first place. But has the last year or so changed you and the way you perceive the industry?
Yeah, I definitely, I think, especially at the start, obviously everyone's scrambling. In that first week or so, 2 weeks, I didn't really stop. We didn't stop at all. Or not we, but just a couple of senior guys, we just kind of didn't stop. We just kind of wanted to keep the momentum going in thinking about things we can do. Because the Cicciabella brand was quite new, I think, it hadn't even been 6 months old when that happened. Oh, just 6 months old. So, that was kind of a little bit of something to be wary about. So that was a bit of a focus, I guess. Whereas icebergs was super strong, it was okay. So yeah, we tried to build that as a brand and the Cicciabella brand to just hold its own. So yeah, just during the scramble, everyone changes. You like everyone's thinking about, oh, what am I like? Do I really want to be doing this? Is this something I believe in? Is it important? I think I kind of swept a lot of those things under the mat because I was honestly more concerned about those staff members that were not, they're not getting treated well. They're not getting looked after. They're not, those visa guys. And, there's been many sad stories on this podcast about those kind of things. So, we probably don't need to dwell on them too much, but they are very much, they do change you, going through, having to let go of 40, 50 staff or in a day kind of thing, or, that definitely makes you, that was the drive to hold jobs for people, for me anyway. That was the drive of, all right, we just need to survive. Like as in survive, meaning we need to make sure that people have jobs at the end of this as well. That's kind of where I was thinking. Like, I'm like, all right, as we need to put money in people's pockets right now, but also we need a job for everyone to come back to. So that was important.
The group will open a couple of more Cicciabella soon, and which is pretty exciting for you, and it'll expand the role that you wanted to do when you first joined the group. But what are you most looking forward to over the next year?
Yeah, so we've feeding my addiction yet again of opening. We've got so venturing up to Byron, though necessarily it might not be. We might not call it a Cicciabella, but we'll be looking after it. That's, super exciting. I mean, obviously, Byron had a boom during COVID, just purely geographically. It was the furthest place north that you could go in New South Wales. So it really boomed and a lot of people did really well. Some not so much up there. But yeah, this site, it's really exciting because I think it's one of those, like, I've never really seen myself as a beachy kind of person, to be perfectly honest with you. But this is like now, like, with the vision of Morris as well behind it, it's like, oh yeah, cool, we could do something really, really cool here. And, that element of walking off the beach and just having a very good piece of food to eat, with sand still on your feet kind of thing. I love that. Like, there hasn't been a venue like that since, I think anyway, since North Bondi Italian. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then we've got a venue in the city, which, hopefully it sounds like everyone's, coming back in, and which is great. That's kind of what we need. That's what our economy needs. And yeah, so that's another tick on the box as well. It's like this super uber underground kind of cool, dark city space.
Wow. Well, Nic, it's always great to catch up, and super impressed, and to hear of the focus that you've got on helping those in the industry, not just the young ones, but also those that have made a career out of hospitality. It's always good to catch up, mate, and hear your story. Please keep in touch, and we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Huck.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.